Okay, move on.
Yeah.
Andre Velaseca. Again, Andre, if I've murdered your name, I'm sorry. Uh, okay, I'll ask all of this in one go. What are you planning next? Are undead coming? How are you going to make humans different from the medieval ranges? So I can start. Yeah, what we're planning next. Well, we're still in the elf and orc phase, really, because all our current plans are focused on those and getting those right and getting them out, and hopefully that people will back the Kickstarter and show to us that they do want a fancy range of figures by Hobday and Hicks, and if they do, that would be absolutely phenomenal. And if it is successful, and it enables Paul and I to create this range and spend time on it, then we obviously want to do dwarves. We obviously want to do humans, and we obviously want to do undead. But we've kind of called them the dead. So we've talked about all three of these, and Paul has done a test dwarf sculpt. We've got some concepts for dwarves that we really like.
Yeah.
And the whole dead it's our take on the undead. I'm not really fans of skeletons and wet things and that kind of stuff. So we've kind of taken a different approach, but hopefully we'll get the opportunity to do that. They would be next, I think, wouldn't they? The dwarves and the dead.
Yeah, because I was going to say the dead are fleshing out quite well now. So, and I think it's a really unique take on the dead, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. Go on.
I don't think it's not something that's been done before. I think it's a really, it's a fun take on the whole idea, and it will cover quite a few bases as well, won't it?
I think so, and it's something slightly different. So we'll see. We'll see if people think it's such a good idea as we do.
Yeah,
which is great.
Great. Yeah, well done.
And then that leaves the humans. How are we going to make them different from the medieval ranges? Well, the reality is, if you really want to, you could take all of the Baron's War medieval stuff and play against all the fancy stuff, because the figures will be sized the same, and the point system will work the same, and the game will be the same. So, plus magic, of course. So you could do that, but we've got some ideas for the humans. So we're still looking at concepts for those and how we would approach it. But for the time being, we're thinking if you want to use humans, there's lots of humans out there that you could use. Footsore of a whole load. There's, as we talked about in another question, there's like the outlaws and some of the villages that we've done for the Baron's War, which would slot nicely in, I think, as rangers, that kind of thing. We've got human wizard, and there's other miniatures, especially that Footsore do, that you could use. But we will come back. We will come back to humans, and we've got some ideas for them, haven't we?
Yeah. It's really weird. You're kind of going, right, I need to think about this, like the concepts for them, and you can think and nothing happens, and then suddenly just something will come from out of the blue, and it will just completely feed in and unlock loads of ideas. And I think that original Baron's War, the third one, kicked that off, but we need to really sort of nail it down, don't we?
Yeah, because we've got some background for the humans. We've got some kind of an origin story. So the idea is there's a high king, and he lives in obviously the most glittery city in our world, and he has Atticus, the chronicler, who we talked about. He's his wise man, his sage, ex fighter, from the wars, and he fits into there, and he lives in this part. And for humans, they're probably in our world the most developed humans will live there. But we'll have different. There's going to be other kingdoms, so he'll be the high king of other kingdoms. So there'll be different types, I think, of humans. That's how I see it at the moment. So we'll see how that kind of evolves. When we get round to actually finishing it, it might not be anything like that. But at the moment, that's where we are. There's definitely a high king of the humans. There's definitely Atticus, who's the chronicler, and the humans. They have cities and I say cities, but they'd probably be big towns and other towns and settings. So we just need to work out how each of those will look. And I think I'm thinking some of the look of those will be based on climate as well, where they are in the world, in our fantasy world. So we can create a lot of that based on the climates. Okay, next, Trevor Goddard says, did you think about making up your own race that is unique to your setting?
Ooh. I've had enough trouble with the existing ones.
The easy answer to this is we haven't at the moment thought about making up our own race. I think we need to box in the races that we actually want to do, which you'd expect to be there, and then we could come back round and look at that. But it's more about where your setting is at, and I like this idea of lo-fi fantasy. So it would kind of be early medieval, Dark Ages with bits thrown in around there as kind of a setting for me. Early medieval, but with some plate mail, if that makes sense, that kind of stuff. So I'm not sure how we'd fit that in. But
yeah, it's very, because a lot of stuff has already been done before, isn't it?
Yeah,
to try and work, come up with a brand new concept. It's quite a lot of work to make it feel like it's been there forever, really.
Yeah.
Yeah,
we won't do rat men. That's Skaven. We wouldn't do lizard men, really, would we? They're kind of those kind of things. I don't envisage doing that. So I'm not sure. I don't know. The easy the only answer I have to this is I don't know. And we'd have to see where we go.
Yeah, maybe it's the time for a drawing competition.
Yeah. Okay. Move on. Stig Kelly says, will there be monsters, dragons, and the like? I wouldn't rule it out. I mean, obviously, there's going to be some low. If you say the dragon's a big high-level monster, there'll be some low-level monsters, like we were answered in the previous question, like trolls and elementals, and I think that kind of thing. But it's a skirmish game, so I think it's very difficult putting a dragon in a skirmish game. I think I'd like to get a dragon in. I think.
Well, there's no reason why it can't be your warband versus a dragon, I suppose.
Yeah, or there's dragon in the lore, and we do a dragon, and people get it, paint it, and that's really cool. But I don't know. I don't know. I like the idea of some heroes riding monsters, that kind of thing. But yes, I think Stig, the easy answer is yes. There will be monsters. What monsters at this point, I'm not sure.
Yeah, that's kind of my thinking on it.
William Minsinger says the little snippets of lore we've gotten have been great. Has the lore come first and informed the sculpts, or do you feel like the sculpts inspires the lore as you go?
It's been a bit of both, isn't it?
I think so. I think it's a bit of both. I think we talked a lot about what fantasy world we wanted to create, what the setting would be like. Tried to join up so it made sense, that believability. And then we then looked at each of the factions individually, and by factions, we could races like elves and humans and orcs, and try to make something, understand how they are in the world. And then from there it informed the sculpts, I guess. And then as we started to create different things, we were thinking, oh, wouldn't it be good to have this, or wouldn't it be good to have that? And then we bounced between the two, the idea of the background and the sculpts that we've created or wanted to create.
Yeah, it becomes, I mean, Andy's very good at the writing of the lore. My version of writing lore is sculpting the figures. So I think we both write our own lore, but in different mediums, if you see what I mean. And that's how it comes, how we work together. So yeah, it's just different ways of getting to the same end, isn't it?
I'd agree. Yeah, I'd agree with that. And we sometimes don't always agree, do we?
No,
but we get there in the end.
But that's I mean, if I make something, and to be honest with you, if I've sculpted something now and I go, I'm not sure about this, and then Andy's pretty much not sure on it either, because we're pretty attuned now, aren't we?
I think it's frighteningly so. Yeah, it kind of works, doesn't it? It's more about just making something, an idea, bigger, isn't it? We don't pull it down. It's more about growing the idea.
Yeah,
it is working for us, I think. But we'll wait and see what everybody thinks.
Yeah.
Okay, William Minsinger also asks, he's got 3 other questions. Regarding the game itself, will the Kickstarter include the Baron's War fantasy rules, or is the Kickstarter just for miniatures? We would like to include a supplement for the Baron's War fantasy as the Baron's War fantasy rule set. I think initially I'd like to have done a complete book, a big book with everything in there, but I don't think we're ready for that. And also, I want you guys to try and play it and see if you like it. So what we've created is a supplement that goes with the Baron's War rules, and in that supplement we'll have lists for orcs, elves, the dead, humans, and dwarves. Sorry, and dwarves. There you go. And mind blank then. So those 5. Yes, sorry. So orcs, elves, humans, no blinking halflings. Yeah, orcs, elves, humans, the dead, and dwarves. So there'll be those 5 lists will be in there. So you'll be able to create an army or a war band or whatever for each of those races. Then the supplement will focus on a campaign, a free scenario campaign is what we want to do, using the figures from the Kickstarter. So it'll all be based around the elves and the orcs, and that will give some of the background to it. And it's like with all of these things, where if there's desire for it and people get it, they play it, they like it, then we'll do more. I'd like to do a full book, a full color book with loads of artwork and miniatures and full rules in there, but I just don't think we're at that stage yet. And I'll be heartbroken if we did that and no one bought it, Paul, or no one wanted it.
I would be too as well, because we've invested a lot of time Yeah, it's not like yeah, just because I think when you do a historical range, you kind of know where you're at, and it's not out of your brain, out of your imagination. So if no one bought it, then
Mm.
it kind of is about it is a kind of a reflection on our imagination and on what we think is good, or you know.
Oh, I never. Do you know what, mate? I never thought of it that way. Oh, that hurts.
So
Awesome.
yeah, so you know, it's whenever I sculpt a historical range, you know, if people don't buy it, then they just means that they don't agree with my interpretation of the figures. So you know, it's got to be yeah. Yeah, you need to buy it because otherwise me and Andy will be really upset now. So that it's all onus is on you.
He's got a follow-up question saying, in the long run, would you consider each race done as they get released, or would we potentially see new elves and orc units in the future after the Kickstarter is completed? Yes, this is the starter, I think, for a range. If it's successful, it will create uh, a new, being grand about it, a new miniatures company, which is Hobday Hicks. And the idea, it will have its own website. We'll release the orcs and the elves onto there, and we'll continue to support and grow the ranges. That's the idea, isn't it, Paul?
Yeah, because I mean, we're on a bit of a voyage of discovery as well as the game is as well, isn't it? The setting,
Mm.
their own, you know, as there's not just going to be elves from one place. This is, you know, like a task force, isn't it? So,
Yes.
as the task, you know, as this little segment is done, God, I hope I've finished with. It's quite a lot of miniatures to be, you know, start off with because we wanted to give you guys all the tools to play the game. But by no means do I envisage it being finished. You know, I wouldn't want it to be fair. You know, it's world. We'll be building a world, and you know, we're going to discover things as well that we want to make. You know, we're not. Don't think we're going to just make things because we think, oh, well, that should make money. No, we all want to make things because we're discovering them. We're thinking, we're imagining their lore, and it's gonna be a fun process. So yeah, I
Yeah,
really hope it's
we want to build the world as we go along, don't we?
yeah,
That's the whole idea, and within there, the people who populate it. So if there's a real desire and for this, then it will allow us to do more, and that's what we're aiming for, really.
yeah,
And then finally, William says, in a similar vein, when we eventually get dwarves and humans and undead and question mark, how do you foresee the rules being updated to include them? Something similar to an expansion book for Baron's War or some other fashion? Uh, I would like to do if this goes well, if the orcs and the elves go well, and you guys like what we've produced and you support it and it's successful, we'll do the same again. I think for dwarves and dead, and we'd have another supplement book, and it would focus on the figures. And then I think if that goes well as well, we will then just do a rule book, I think, and put it all into one rule book.
mm-hmm.
Uh, I'd like to support it all online as well. So because we're creating something, I see a community growing up around it, feeding into it, writing scenarios, writing lore, making characters, and everybody get involved in it. I mean, it'd kind of be the same philosophy as we have for the Barons' War, in a way that once it's out there, it belongs to everybody who wants to invest time and money in it, I think, and
Yeah,
that we all get to feed in and contribute. That's how I would like to do it.
yeah. No, I think it. Yeah, this has the potential to be so, you know, so open and exciting that we're going to have a lovely voyage of discovery all together at the same time, which is going to be great, I think, which will be really creative, and it'll be exciting for to sculpt, really.
Andres Villaseca, are you planning to provide stats for the Harrowhurst range too? There's no immediate plans to do that, but we have spoken to Trish about using some of her monsters, especially the Griffin, and maybe further down the line we'll put a rider on it. I think that's where we could go, couldn't we, Paul?
Yes, we could. But the thing is, we've got to remember that's Trish's world, isn't it?
It is Trish's world, yeah, absolutely. And as fantastic as it is, and it is some amazing things, Trish is doing that with Footsore, isn't she? And releasing it all through Footsore. I know because I co-own Footsore and Paul's done a lot of sculpting for it. It looks like this fantasy range, this Hobday and Hicks, is something that Footsore's doing. It isn't. This is something which is totally new. And, in all intents and purposes, Paul and I are creating a new miniatures company with a new range. So although we're getting a lot of help from Footsore, and they will prop us up to start with, the idea is for Hobday and Hicks to set out and sail off on its own.
Yeah.
Andres Villaseca asks, are we getting evil dwarves, elves too? Maybe.
Yeah, maybe. Who's not to say that they're not evil anyway? But then the beauty is, surely you can make them out to be as, at this point, it's up to you how you want to, choose to.
Maybe it's the aesthetic he's thinking about. Because I kind of like the idea that there's the elven houses, and some of them are evil, but just evil in their plans and their machinations.
Yeah.
So we could show that. I mean, I don't want to see them covered in skulls and stuff, because that's kind of high fantasy, isn't it?
Yeah.
I'm evil because I wear skulls. And I'm being flippant, guys. I mean, some beautiful figures out there like that, but that's not how I see it. I'd see they're evil because of the plans that they have, and maybe there's evil spirits. There's definitely evil magic in the world, so maybe that's what they use. So I think if you want evil elves to fight good elves, I think that would be possible. And I also think there'll be different houses of elves that would want to fight each other anyway. So, there's all of those options, really. Okay, Tim Mears asks, aside from the stunning minis, will there be some lore and world building at play? Will they be left to us to populate our worlds with your wonderful minis? I think we've answered this a lot, to be honest, Tim. So there will be lore, but my thoughts are the lore will grow slowly. So we're not going to say here's everything all at once, bang in your face. It will be more about the scenarios that we'll offer, and some background onto the elves and some background onto the dwarves and the humans, etc. And it will slowly build up from there. There is an overarching some overarching thought that's gone into it which is the world. So we have a outline of how we see it, and the scenarios that we've created already for the orcs and elves will give you a real feeling of a part of this world that we're in, and the characters involved in that campaign. But my thought is if we would just continue to build, campaign by campaign by campaign. So we would colour in the outline of the world. However, I mean, Paul's miniatures are beautiful. If you just want to take them and go and play other fantasy games with them, that's fine too, I suppose.
Yeah.
I'm only kidding. If that's what you want to do, go and do that. That's because they're just beautiful.
Oh, thank you.
Okay. Troy Ronald Rubin says, where does knighthood chivalry fit into the setting? I haven't fitted it into the setting yet, Troy, to be honest. Not that I don't think that kind of ideal won't be part of our fantasy world. I just haven't really got round to that kind of level of detail for the humans. If you're thinking about the Barons' War and that the Barons' War setting, as in the knights, etc., are going to drop into here and then everything on top, that's not the intention at all. So if there is some sort of a knighthood or chivalry that fits in, it will be its own thing based on the fantasy world that we create. The only real link between the Barons' War is the rules mechanics. That's the link between the two. So it's not the actual Barons' War game itself. It's just the actual rules that we'll go over. Troy also asks, if you had an unlimited budget, how would the range be different?
I don't think it would be.
You know what? I thought that as well. If I had an unlimited budget, this is all I would do.
Yeah.
You know, as well as the other bits and pieces. I don't think people, I don't know if they realise or not, you know, you're a full-time sculptor for people, and I have a full-time job. I don't write games as my full-time job. So I have to fit all of this in around everything else I do. So
don't you think in a way, because with our friends at Badger Games, and I think we should acknowledge the fact that, you know, we've had immense help from Ben Chakotay at Badger Games. We have really been allowed to be in that situation, and I think, yeah, I really can't see us coming up doing it any other way. Yeah, no, I think this is exactly how I wanted to do it, and I'm not sure if it's exactly, you know, I would, yeah, maybe have just all the time in the world to devote to it. Might have been a little bit quicker, but actually, to be honest with you, I don't think I would want to do it any other way.
I'd like more time to spend on it, I think.
Yeah.
For me. So yeah, that's the difference for me. I would like, you know, and same with the Barons' War. You know, I write the Barons' War in my spare time. So you know, if I had all the money in the world, or unlimited budget, I don't want all the money in the world. If I had unlimited budget, well, there's a lot of good things I'd do with it, but if I had unlimited budget, I'd like to be able to spend 2 or 3 days a week just writing. That's what I would like to do, and then that would obviously would enable us to be further on along with the ranges or what we want to do, that kind of thing.
Yeah,
and you know, we wouldn't need to go to Kickstarter and all of these things.
Yeah.
We could just release it and go from there. So that would be that as well, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Okay. Troy also asks, what kinds of conversations have you had about army books or codexes like other war games have? I haven't really. No, but we could. I think I love books. I know this isn't. It will answer your question, Troy. I promise. I love books, and I like creating books and making things and reading them because I'm old, and I'm realizing a lot these days that the younger generation aren't that bothered as much with it. They're quite happy to have it all online or PDFs and that kind of stuff.
Well, I
I,
also think, sorry, I also think older gamers don't really appreciate, book after book just to play, their army. Maybe, sorry, I'm really interrupted your train. I mean,
you
it
did.
could be a
That's okay.
campaign.
No, I think you're right. I creating books for books' sake. Excuse me. So you can make loads of books to sell isn't a business model I would want to do. But what I would like to do is I'd like to create a really nice rule book for the fantasy game with the core armies in, and then with lots of lovely pictures and artwork, etc. And then we could add to that with supplement books. But I think the supplement books would be more based around scenarios and characters and have a story with it is what I would like to do. But we can also support the game with releases online, like like we've just done for Futsal with for Gangs of Rome, where they had Galen the Greek, who was a character in there, and they created a scenario to use him and his rules. So when you buy the miniature, you can download his PDF as well. So there's lots of ways to support all of those kind of things. But I think if you're growing a world and it's dynamic and it's creating and it's a tough choice between making a great book but also having lots of content, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, we could maybe do compendiums once we've got quite a lot of
Content.
stuff for certain races. We could then maybe do it into a compendium, but I wouldn't wish for to finally write a book and then suddenly, well, we've got to change it all now, so you've got to buy it again. Yeah,
and also if I was, I don't like the idea of we've got a game and then we release this game and there's lists for them in the book, and then the first army book that comes out is for the orcs, and the orcs get all this cool stuff because obviously you got a bigger book to put more stuff in. And then that gives them an advantage over everybody else until the elf book comes out, and then the dwarf book comes out, etc. I think if you write a good rule set and it works, then why would you rewrite the game?
Yeah, get it right the first time round.
Yeah, so then you can just add to it, can't you, as you go?
Yeah, and I think we should trust, like the people that play Barons War, they don't just go out to try and break the rule set, do they, to get an advantage, do they?
No.
It's definitely not. Yeah, I think our customers are definitely won't be hanging on for a codex to beat all other armies, will they?
No. I wouldn't. Yeah. So yeah, I don't think about. Yeah, I think to summarise, Troy, I don't think there's going to be army books or codexes. I think there'd be source books. I kind of like that idea more.
Yes. Yeah. That's good. Definitely a better way of putting it than I did.
Okay. Finally, in terms of fantasy miniatures, what is your guilty pleasure figure or idea?
Don't know.
I don't have one.
Halflings.
I don't have one.
Renaissance halflings. Coming soon via Futsal.
I don't like halflings. I just be honest, and I'm sorry, everybody, and all those people who do. I'm just really not a fan. So, Paul has made some beautiful halflings. I just can't get excited about them because they're halflings. I
When,
don't know. Maybe guilty pleasure figure. Maybe a big dragon. Something really characterful. That it would be a guilty pleasure because I think we'd struggle to get it in the game, but we could write some really cool lore about it.
oh, actually, a giant. Do you know what I would love to do? Is remake the first figure I ever made sculpted, and that was a giant. Yeah, yeah.
We should do a giant. I think we should. I think a giant would be really cool.
I'll tell you what. I think that yeah. Well, don't know where he is. Oh, there he is up there. I'll get him to show you.
He's awesome. Look at him.
Yeah, we'll just remake him. That is cool, nearly 30 years old. Yeah. Cool, those feet are rubbish.
Thomas Comiskey's asked, I'd really like to understand if you try to set everything in a particular time span when it comes to fashion and technology. There are lots of miniature ranges where you have plate and sallet, armoured handgunners, alongside other factions wearing arms and armour from 1,000 years earlier in terms of technological development. Once humans invented the halberd and the crossbow, they dropped the spear and the sling like a hot rock. Yes, it's the answer. We try to hang the fashion and the technology together, really, because it has to be believable.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I think there is certain elements you can bring in with certain races, because just because we want. I mean, I've put a little bit of plate in the elves just to not like their whole, just to show that their metalworking is going to be more advanced than humans or the orcs, or and the same with, there'll be a slight difference with the dwarfs, but not, it's not going to be, they're not going to have any different. It won't be a massive technological leap between the races. It will all be pretty grounded.
Yeah, I don't see people having guns and people having slings, that kind of thing. It's not going to work like that at all. Simple as that, really. That it does have to be believable. Sorry, that's not true. It doesn't have to be believable. It can be whatever you want it to be because it's a fantasy game. However, for me, if we're creating something, we're trying to have things that hold together. It needs to hold together well. But I do like, when we're talking of fashion, I don't want to jump thousands of years, but I do like jumping hundreds of years for bits. So if we're looking in historical armor or historical helmets or weapons, mixing, 150 years of not weapons but timeline, if it is in their armor, is quite interesting thing to do because it kind of changes the way certain things look while still being familiar.
Mm-hmm.
So I like that idea.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay, if you've made it through to this part here, you've gone all the way through our video. Thank you very much for all the questions that you've asked us. Hopefully we've answered them in a way that actually does answer your questions. We've both tried our best. If you do have any further questions that you'd like to ask, do get in touch. Do drop them in the Hobday Hicks Facebook group on Facebook, of course. And, please come and back our Kickstarter. We need your help.